Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about Nintendo's big holiday 2024 lineup. Now you might be asking, what big holiday 2024 lineup? The way things have been going this year, it doesn't look like Nintendo has much to offer. Maybe, but also, maybe they just haven't announced it yet, and I do think there's actually reason to think there are still some good things that will be coming this year, especially towards the holiday time. And so that's what I would like to talk about today. But before going forward, let me point out that we are currently reaching for a 40,000 subscriber goal, so if you do enjoy my content, my perspectives and theories, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and enjoy the ride as we talk about Nintendo every day. So before getting into the things we could see for holiday 2024 this year, let's first talk about why many people are concerned for this year. A lot of it centers around the recent reports that Switch 2 has been internally delayed to early 2025. Now the reports have become increasingly more and more significant, even Nikkei has put out this information, and so it's very likely that at the very earliest Switch 2 is coming out early 2025, perhaps even later. But all this info is suggesting that Nintendo did indeed have a plan for Switch 2 to launch this year. And we've even recently gotten info that Switch 2's actually been ready for some time, but it's being delayed for other reasons, such as getting more hardware out there and getting the right lineup together. But with a lot of these reports, it's also been said that Nintendo is saving a lot of their big releases for Switch 2. With Switch 2 being pushed out, it kind of begs the question, well, what's being pushed out with it? A lot of us were thinking we would see the next big 3D Mario with Switch 2, and so because that's apparently coming out next year, we're not getting 3D Mario for the holidays this year. I think we could see it announced though, and that's going to be exciting to see and talk about the game, but it won't be coming out. And then there was hope that maybe we could see like a Pokemon game to come out at the end of this year, because we see that pretty much every single year. And with the recent Pokemon Presents, not only did they not announce a spin-off of any kind for this year, they didn't even announce any Pokemon game for this year, but what they did was confirm the Legends game we were hoping to get is coming, but in 2025, Pokemon Legends ZA, and not even early 2025. You might say, well, they only said a blank 2025, so it could still happen in early 2025, and that is true. However, when they announced Legends Arceus, they said launching early 2022. They didn't use the early timing this time around, so I'm going to assume January is not the time Legends ZA is coming out. It's probably a little bit later into the year. So the 3D Mario game, the Legends game, we are likely going to see them, but they aren't going to be coming out until next year. But another game that's been a part of this conversation when it comes to Switch 2 has been Metroid Prime 4. This is a Switch 1 title, but given how long it's been in development, given how late we are into the generation, and given how we expect this game to be one of the most visually, technically impressive games on the Switch, there is reason to think that cross-gen may make a lot of sense, very similar to how it worked out for both Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. Of course, given that Zelda is a much bigger seller than Metroid, we're not necessarily expecting it to be a launch title, but launch window has been a big part of the conversation, with a small possibility of it being a launch title, but more likely being 3D Mario. So with this recent delay, it even calls Metroid Prime 4's release timing into question. So what are we going to see for the holidays this time around? Well, let's first talk about Metroid Prime 4, because while it may have been pushed back to 2025, that isn't necessarily the case. We've seen that the game has been the QA testing stage since early last year, so it's likely that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be ready relatively soon for release. Now, of course, Nintendo can sit on the game until next year, as they've done with other games, but Nintendo could put out Prime 4 this year if they so choose. And we do have this recent rumor from Jeff Grubb that Metroid Prime 4 is supposed to come out this year. Now, I've been somewhat skeptical of this rumor, not that I doubt Jeff Grubb's sources, but when it comes to timing, it's always tricky, and things always seem to come out a little bit later than expected. Take Metroid Prime Remastered, for example. Jeff Grubb was one of the main sources behind this big boy remaster, and he was so confident it would be releasing for holiday 2022, and instead Nintendo released it for very early 2023, just a few months later. Very similar to how everything's going for Switch 2, it's happening just a few months later. So I've been a little dubious of the recent Jeff Grubb rumors. However, recently, during the partner showcase, when Epic Mickey was revealed, he did say that he feels even better about Metroid Prime 4 happening this year because his source also told him about that. Now again, when did he hear about this information? Was it before the internal memo that Switch 2 has been pushed into 2025? And if so, would they then delay Prime 4 as well? That is up for debate. Personally, I want to play Metroid Prime 4 in the best way possible, but also, if the Switch 1 version looks and runs amazing as Metroid Prime Remastered does, and it comes out this year as the big game, I'm okay with that too. And so if they release an enhanced version later down the road in 2025, alongside an expansion DLC of some sort, that wouldn't be the end of the world, especially because Metroid games are more replayable, and so while I may play Metroid Prime 4 for the first time on Switch 1, when Switch 2 comes around and it can take advantage of this reported, rumored, enhanced backwards compatibility, I'll play it again, and perhaps alongside some new DLC. I wouldn't hate that option either. And if there's no big Pokemon release this year, Metroid Prime 4 could have its best opportunity to succeed more so than ever before. And let me speak on the point about how these reports have suggested that Nintendo would be saving their big releases for Switch 2. Does Metroid Prime 4 count? We're not sure. Especially because apparently Mario Wonder didn't count either when we heard that there would be no big Switch games after Tears of the Kingdom, yet just 5 months later we saw the release for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So maybe we see Metroid Prime 4 come out this year. If not, I still think we at least see gameplay of the game this year, and there still could be other options beyond Prime 4 for this year's holiday lineup. And so let me circle back to Pokemon. There was a lot of expectations that we would see more than just Pokemon Legends ZA during the Presents. Legends ZA is a very exciting announcement. I'm very happy that they're saving this for sometime in 2025. It's getting more time, and I think it's going to be a really good game. But there were a lot of rumors from supposedly credible places that something Generation 2 or Generation 5 would be happening soon. What many would have called perhaps the most credible Pokemon-centric leaker, the Riddler, there was a lot of Generation 2-5 stuff they were putting out, like this really funny Ho-Oh Reshiram chicken image. And yet, we didn't see any sort of game announced like that during the Presents. There was a lot of Generation 2 promotional things, but nothing actually specifically Generation 2 or Johto related. And there wasn't really anything Generation 5. And so many people are doubting that Ku is even a legit leaker anymore. But they do have a long history of teasing things, and there's been a variety of things they've gotten right. Of course, everything's in a riddle, sometimes they're joking or trolling, so there's definitely a lot of room for debate there. But a leaker that I don't really think there is much debate for is Pyoro. Pyoro has the best track record out of all. Just recently, they detailed several games in the Partner Showcase before the Partner Showcase happened, and also that it would be a Partner Showcase and that it would have been delayed beyond when we were expecting it because of the Xbox podcast. All of this has been well supported and documented, and that's just recent stuff. Pyoro is not one to doubt, in my opinion. And so, before the Pokemon Presents happened, they put out this tweet that said, "I don't know anything about the Pokemon Presents. While I heard of an outsourced Unova-related game, the info was from last year, so it may turn out to be inaccurate." And they followed it up by saying, "This is not a leak and should be taken with a grain of salt. I'm just sharing something I'm aware of." We didn't get anything Unova-related that was outsourced during the Pokemon Presents, but if you pay attention to what Pyoro said, he didn't promise it. He didn't call it a leak. He said to take it with a grain of salt, and so I don't think it's a hit towards his credibility in any way, shape, or form. And actually, what I think is interesting about this is that what Pyoro is saying here is something that lines up with the Riddler as well. A Unova-related game that's been outsourced. Sounds very similar to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Remakes that were outsourced to Ilka when we got the announcement for Legends Arceus, except we just got the announcement for Legends ZA, but no announcement of an outsourced remake that's taking place in Unova. So what happened? Could it be that since Pyoro heard this from a while back, it's simply outdated information and the plans changed, or perhaps the project was cancelled? Maybe. But it's also possible they're simply saving the project to be announced a little bit later on. Could be sometime next year, but also could still be this year. Typically, we get 2 Pokemon Presents in a year, and we have seen some substantial announcements made in the later year Pokemon Presents. One good example, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were announced in the middle of the year and came out for the holiday of 2018. Those are remakes, and they could announce more remakes in the middle of this year to come out this holiday, and they could be Generation 5 Unova related games that have been made by ILCA not made by Game Freak, not taking away from their development resources in any way, so they can focus on Legend ZA and the eventual Generation 10 after that. So while many may be doubting we get anything else from Pokemon this year, there's plenty of opportunity for there to be a remake like what we've heard from the rumors to still be announced later into the year, and also some spin-offs as well. Going beyond that, I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo does announce another Mario Party for this year. If you look at the history of Mario Party releases, we never go more than 2 or 3 years before a new Mario Party game. The last one we got came out holiday 2021. So are we due for another in 2024? I'm kinda thinking so. It's possible maybe they save Mario Party for Switch 2 next year, or we see a Mario Party drought and it takes even longer, but history suggests otherwise. And interestingly, we've even seen Mario Parties come out in that last year before a console launch, or in the year when the console launches, like Mario Party Advance, Mario Party The Top 100. So a Mario Party around this time isn't really a stretch in my opinion, and that could be a fun quality release that comes out sometime close or within the holidays. Now beyond all that, I'll mention something else. That something else is Zelda related. I remember back in 2020, all throughout the year I was making the argument that there still needs to be a big holiday release, even though it was a pandemic year, it was going to be a slower year, not as much games, not as much bigger and newer games, more remakes and remasters, that there still needed to be a big holiday release. And that also there needed to be a Zelda game, because typically we have a major Zelda release every single year. The only recent exception being 2022, because Tears of the Kingdom was going to be the 2022 game, and was delayed into May, which isn't that much later, and so I think that's why we didn't get a major Zelda release for 2022. But otherwise, we get major Zelda releases every year. Nintendo wants to keep Zelda in the conversation, it's good for the brand, and so I'm still expecting something Zelda for this year, and it hasn't been announced yet. And the way things are looking, it may not be coming out in the first half. Do I have some level of hope that maybe we see like a Zelda collection announced for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and they shadow drop them, or they come out really soon, say maybe April or June? Certainly, they could definitely fit them into that point. But also, they could save this hypothetical collection for later into the year. Both these remasters have been rumored for some time already, and if there's a time to put them out, this is the year, especially if Nintendo is saving a lot of their bigger releases for 2025 and beyond because of Switch 2. But it doesn't even have to be old Zelda remasters that could be a part of Nintendo's big holiday lineup. It could actually be a new Zelda game. Now, I'm not saying a brand new 3D open world Zelda game. I'm not even talking about the theorized Ocarina of Time remake, which I still believe is going to happen, just not this year. And actually, I never thought it was going to be happening this year, 2025 at the earliest, but that's another conversation for another time. What I think we could see if we don't see some form of a Zelda remaster compilation is a new 2D Zelda game. I want to go back to something I was talking about last year. In the first half of last year, I definitely was on the hopium train of, oh, maybe Switch 2 could come out even at the end of 2023, and that was definitely wrong. But I always said that if we don't see something like that in the second half, what we get instead is a 2D Mario game. And what did we get? We got Mario Wonder. And many people even doubted that we would see a new 2D Mario game because we had the likes of Mario Maker 2, and it had been so long since a brand new 2D Mario, there just wasn't much expectation that this would happen. But I never really doubted 2D Mario would happen again because it is a successful series from Nintendo that we've seen recurring throughout the generations of Nintendo. And that's pretty much the same story for Zelda. Even 2D Zelda. Is 2D Zelda as big as 3D Zelda? No. But is it small? By no stretch of the imagination. Link's Awakening Remake, a remake of a Game Boy game that was priced at a full price of $60, still sold over 6.5 million copies or something like that, which is a pretty impressive number. So I just don't see Nintendo shying away from the 2D Zelda series. They will come back to it. And if there's a time to put it out, I actually wouldn't be surprised if it's this year. Because 2D Zelda likely wouldn't be something you would need a next generation console to fully showcase. It would do just fine on Switch 1. And with the launch of a new console coming soon, perhaps this is the time to put it out before that happens. And so if there's a 2D Zelda game that is ready behind the scenes, Nintendo may have that as part of their holiday 2024 lineup. And that'd be a pretty fun, exciting game to play. Of course, this is my own speculation. We shall see what actually happens. With one more final closing thought, I'll say this. If you look throughout the Switch era, even before that, Nintendo's made sure to have at least games for the holidays. There have been times where things have been dry, especially before Switch era where there have been many droughts, but they still make sure to have a lineup of games for the holidays where sales are the strongest. And Nintendo's had such a strong development pipeline throughout the Switch era, they have been sitting on games. I don't think we're in a scenario where they have a lack of games. Perhaps most of the games that come out this year are remakes and remasters or partnered projects, while Nintendo saves most of their own bigger projects for 2025. I still think they could be saving some of their bigger releases for 2024 for the holidays, as they've done every year. Even during the pandemic year, we still had that big holiday Zelda game in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and that was the pandemic year. I shared with you several ideas for games that could come out during the holiday lineup for this year. I think they all have decent chances, and I'm sure there are other possibilities as well. But what do you think? What do you make of the possibilities of Nintendo's holiday 2024 lineup? Do you still think there could be some bangers there? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.